Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Friday, April 20th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Andrew McGinnis and Alex B. Smith. Hopefully Dana Lane momentarily will be with us as well as we break down the Friday, Saturday NHL playoff games. We've got 6 of them to talk about here on this show. And you know what? If I have to set an over-under in terms of how many games, how many of these series that we're going to talk about tonight make it to a game number 6, I'll be honest with you, I'd set it at 0.5, and I'd be reluctant to bet the over. Let's put it that way. 0.5 teams to push this series to a 6th game tonight. I think these underdogs are in tough. It's tough to say. This first round is fizzling out in a hurry before our very eyes if you're a hockey fan. We've had 2 sweeps already. We have 3 series tonight that may not get to a 6th game, and I think are the big favorite to not get to a 6th game. And then you've got a couple series that are in jeopardy of wrapping up tomorrow night in 5 games. Toronto, Boston, Tampa, New Jersey. You know, Washington, Columbus is the only series that's guaranteed to be going to a game 6 right now. So you're looking at a situation where you're not going to have a whole lot of game 6, 7 drama potentially here in this first round. So very interesting to see how that plays out. Let's get right to it with our first game tonight. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Is this the end of the road for the Keystone State rivalry? Pittsburgh is just laying an absorbent price here, 260, 265 at home, total 6, shaded to the under a little bit in this game. Really, it was a thoroughly broken team, I thought, physically and mentally the other night, watching the Philadelphia Flyers just get absolutely trounced in their home building by the Pittsburgh Penguins, 5-0. Really, and that's the concern with them here going into this game. Now, Sean Couturier is expected to be a game-time decision. Okay, does that give you an emotional lift? Sure, if he plays. Will it make you a better team on the ice if he plays? Absolutely. But that's a mental issue, I think, right now with the Philadelphia Flyers. That looked like a team that was mentally checked out. We're not as good as Pittsburgh, and the effort, I thought, was very feeble in the second and third period at home, no less, to try to get back and get back into that hockey game. That's my concern. Is this a defeated hockey team mentally? Philadelphia already as they take to the ice tonight for Game 5 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll see where they go with goaltending. Dave Haxtell is not said anything. We might actually see him go to Michael Neuwirth tonight, not confirmed yet. Will he give Brian Elliott a third chance after getting pulled twice in this series now? That's a big question mark. For me, it's a tough handicap because I can't make a legitimate, strong, valid case because I don't know the mental psyche right now of the Flyers. Is there still fight? Is there still will left in them to try to hang around in this series? And at the same time, you're not getting any bargain with Pittsburgh money line. You're not getting any bargain with Pittsburgh puck line. You're not getting any bargain with Pittsburgh regulation line here in this game. It's no bargain at all with any of those 3 options. So unfortunately, this is not a game I'm probably going to be involved in. And even with the total at 6, I got to hope Philly can score for me if this game's going to go over the total line. I'm not sure. And we need to start respecting the way Matt Murray's played in this series. He's been phenomenal. 1.27 goals against, 950-some save percentage. It's been excellent, Matt Murray. He's put up a fortress, a brick wall in front of that net. And the Philadelphia Flyers have not been able to penetrate it. Where is Wayne Simmons? Where are you, my friend? Where are you in this series, Wayne Simmons? You're taking some bad penalties. You're not showing up offensively. That's been one of the biggest disappointments here for Philly. As Giroux's been in and out, he had 1 good game. He's been pretty quiet. It's been disappointing, some of these bigger lights. Jake Voracek, too. What the hell's he been doing in this series? Nothing. So some of these guys got to get going here for the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm just not sure they're capable of it. They look like a beaten team. They look like they knew they were second best to the Pittsburgh Penguins the other night. I'm not totally sure that mentality changes for the Philadelphia Flyers here in this game tonight. Let's see what we've got here in terms of who's involved in these games. We've got Andrew with the Pens and Flyers. He's got a thought on it here. Andrew, what do you see happening?
I honestly think it's the same thing that you really mentioned, where it's the star guys that really didn't come to show up in that, and that's the biggest thing for me. Giroux, Simmons, Voracek, even Konechny, even guys like that are supposed to be there. They're supposed to be the all-stars for this team, and the fact that they're not really there to show up, I think it's going to be the biggest factor. Is that I might take the under tonight at under 6. I think that the fact is, from what we've seen on the Philadelphia, Ian, they had a 4-minute power play. They had a 4-minute major. They had an opportunity, 2 power plays pretty much, and it was almost like I wish they didn't even have it because it was so embarrassing. That game was just pathetic to watch. After that first period, like you said, Ian, they almost packed their bags. That game was over. It was done with. The Stars took care of business. You got Kessel, Malkin, Crosby doing their thing, Letang getting involved. Early on, that game was over halfway through the second period. So I think the under 6 is a good play. I don't really expect much from Philadelphia, and Murray's going to keep doing what he's doing. The only thing that really worries me is Philadelphia just kind of packing it in, and Pittsburgh just completely shutting them down. But as far as I see it, under 6 is a good play. Philadelphia under team total is a good play. They won't do anything.
All right, Philadelphia team total under, game total under. Wouldn't argue with that. I mean, I've been a heavy over backer in this series, although there's been a lot of pushes and finally a loss the other night. Not interested in that way from a totals perspective here in this game tonight. And again, we'll see what kind of mentality the Flyers are made of here tonight. Let's go to Alex B. Smith, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Alex, what do you like?
Well, I'm going with the one play that's really kind of been cashing the entire series. That's the first period over. We've seen these two teams get off to fast starts, be it that either team gets a goal, or we saw Philadelphia come out with 2 quick goals, Pittsburgh come out with 2 quick goals. The losing team has either scored 1 or 0 goals so far in 4 games in the series. So you're going to have to expect that it's going to be a 1-1 or 2-0, first 20 minutes of play. But like I said, the one thing I'd worry about with the under is that if it is a back and forth kind of game early, Philly goes, up 2-1, or it ends up being tied 2-2. Now you're in a whole world of trouble because if Pittsburgh gets up 3-2, Philly's going to be pulling the goalie. Who knows? We've seen a lot of missed empty net goals, so that's not a gimme anymore these days. But like I said, first period over is the only thing I'm looking at here tonight.
Yeah, I mean I think you could get a first period over and a full game under. We saw it in the last game, 5-0 Pittsburgh. First period over would have cashed, and your full game under would have cashed. So we could see something like that because Pittsburgh showed no hesitation of just playing sit back and just rope-a-dope hockey in the third period with a massive lead. And if they get out to something similar tonight, you could see that type of game plan. And let's be honest, Matt Murray's been terrific in this series. The Flyers have had trouble now in a couple of games in a row trying to solve him. Really, game 2 is the only game they had a modicum of success putting the puck in against Matt Murray. So that's decent thought. You could see that where you could go 2-0 going first period over, full game under 6 in this game tonight, Penguins and Flyers. Colorado, Nashville, 9-10 on the rotation here. Nashville minus 310 at 5 dimes. That's where you should go if you want to bet Nashville. Not that you should bet a $3 favorite, and nor would I ever recommend you to do that. But if you wanted to, that's the best price clearly because it's as high as 345, even 350. Bookmaker Chris and Greek and some other locations. So we got a little bit of a differing opinion. We got a 40-cent difference. Some books with this Nashville side, total 6 pretty much across the board, but 5.5 is sitting out there at Heritage. So again, SBRodds.com, there is a stray 5.5 out there, mostly 6s. That's why you want to use SBRodds.com to get the best number, best price available with every game you place a wager on. This is an interesting one because let's be honest, from a totals perspective, this has been a wild and weird and wacky Stanley Cup playoffs. We had a run of 9-0-3 to the over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday last weekend. 9 overs, no unders, 3 pushes. Since then, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9-0 to the under. 9 consecutive Stanley Cup playoff games under the total, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday combined, heading into this game night tonight. And it has me reluctant to go over with some of these games tonight. That being said, if I have to put my hand down and put my foot down, whatever you want to call it, and say one of these games tonight, if you had to choose one, Ian, one of these games to go over the total, to maybe break this malaise and spell of unders, which one would it be tonight of the 3 games? This is, I think, your best shot here, Nashville and Colorado, because Andrew Hammond, I don't trust. I know he had 1 start this season in net for Colorado against Philadelphia, played well. That was at home. It was against a Flyers team that, is erratic, inconsistent. You're going to now be making this first start in a month, and you're going to be doing it in the playoffs, on the road, in Nashville. And, this Nashville team, they've only scored 5 goals in the 2 home games in this series. So good luck with that if you're Andrew Hammond. Good luck with a defense that's banged up. Eric Johnson out. Sam Girard, if he plays, is probably not going to be 100%. Good luck with David Warsofsky on the third defensive pair here for the Colorado. This guy has been in the AHL for more stints than I have fingers, to be honest with you. Really, I mean, David Warsofsky, and we're going to war with this guy as my 5th, 6th defenseman? Oh, my goodness. Talk about a very tough situation here for the Colorado Avalanche in a backs against the wall, must-win facing elimination spot tonight against Nashville. Nashville, they've had no problem scoring goals and generating offense at home in this series. And now you've got a very patchwork blue line and a goalie that who the hell knows what you're going to get from him. He's capable of stealing a game. He did it for Ottawa 2 years ago, but his postseason track record, 3.44 goals against average, albeit in limited postseason games. I don't trust him against this opponent, against this kind of motivation, I think, for Nashville to put their foot down and end this series tonight. They've scored 5 goals, like I said, in the 2 home games in this series. I think it's going to be a struggle to keep Nashville off the score sheet tonight if you're the Colorado Avalanche. But on the flip side, I expect Nashville to probably score the first goal like they did the other night, and maybe the first 2 goals. And if that happens, Colorado can't go into a shell. Their season's done, finished, if they lose this game tonight. So I think if Nashville scores first, and I believe they will, Colorado's going to push this attack, push this pace. There's nothing left to lose. It's throw caution to the wind time if you're the Colorado Avalanche. So I'm going to go the over here in this game and the over in the first period. I like both of them. Full game over. 6, although I'm going to go with the 5.5. I'm picking off that 5.5 at Heritage, minus 118. And if you have access to that sports book in particular and like the over, no reason to not bet it at Heritage and get that 5.5 minus 118 instead of 6. Could be the difference between a win and a push when it's all said and done. So I like the first period over, and I like the full game over here. And I wouldn't mind Nashville puck line minus 120, but again, these puck line games have been not going well. Yeah. So that's only a lean for me with the puck line. The reg line is way too high. Last I checked, the regulation line on Nashville was minus 180. So you can't even touch that.
Yeah, it didn't change
right
much.
now. Yeah, it's a terrible. I mean, no value, none, 0 with Nashville regulation at that price. So for me, we'll just go over first period and over for the full game. Over 1.5 first period, over 1.5 first period, over 5.5 minus 118 at Heritage. If you can only find 6, even though I believe, please find that 5.5. It's critical. But if you can only find 6, I still wouldn't argue taking the over here. But try to find a 5.5 here with this one if it's at all possible. Let's go to Alex B. Smith, Colorado, Nashville, Game 5 down in Music City. Is this all she wrote for the Avs tonight?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because this Colorado team, you got to give them a lot of credit. They played their asses off in the regular season down the stretch to get into this spot, to get in the playoffs. But losing Varlamov and now losing Bernier, they're down to the 3rd string goalie, except Andrew Hammond, who had a wonderful brief 2015 after the regular season, went 120 of his last 23 starts, and then kind of falls in the playoffs, fell off the face of the earth, and now he's back and getting the chance to maybe try and salvage something for Colorado, but I don't see it here. Nashville, too strong at home. The offense is clicking on all cylinders. Because all the prices are too high to side with Nashville, but I like the first period over and full game over as well. I can't find that 5.5. I don't have access to Heritage, but I got it 6 even money, and the over first period 1.5 at minus $1.15. Like I said, I think Nashville comes out, scores early, scores often. I do think we see Colorado score a bit too, so I think this could be another one of those high-scoring games like we saw to start the series. Like I said, even looking at the game, the last game, it was they just missed a goal away from being over too. So this has definitely been a high-scoring series, and I think Nashville wraps it up. It's contagious when you see one team wrap up a series like you did with Vegas. They swept LA, and now you got San Jose moving on. Teams want to move on. They don't want to be in these long. You don't want to get into a 7-game series with anybody, but definitely when you see your opponent now resting, you want to get that rest. You want to be on the same even keel. So I think that's going to be a theme. I think we're going to see a lot of series close out because teams want to get on that next level.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you start to see sweeps and 5-game series. You want that rest too if you can get it. And you don't want to be stuck holding the bag with having to gut yourself through 6-7 games and be a tired team going into the second round. So you could see that kind of mentality creep in with your Pittsburghs and your Nashvilles and your Winnipegs tonight here in these elimination games, trying to do away with their opponent. If you're a trend is your friend guy, the over 19-6-1 in the last 25 meetings overall. Colorado, Nashville, 15-5-1 the last 21 meetings here in Nashville between these two teams. It's been an over series. I know you finally saw the first under of this series in Game 4 in Colorado, but even then you had to hang on for dear life. It was 3-0. It was bang, bang, 3-2. Colorado was really pressing and nearly tied that game 3-3. And, of course, if they tie that game, night to the underbettors, that game would have gone over the total. So I think we get back to a little bit more pace, high-scoring game. And again, Colorado, if they fall behind, and I think they will, they got to go. They got to go after it, got to go for it. So first period over and full game over for me. And Alex agrees. He's on both of those as well. Let's go to Andrew, Nashville, Colorado. What do you see here, Andrew, in this game?
Yeah, well, two things that you mentioned, Ian. The first thing is you got to look at, first of all, the history of what we've seen from the Predators at home and their performance. I mean, when they're playing at Bridgestone Arena, they're a different team. They're a different team than they are when they're away. And the second thing I want to mention is that the way that these defenders have been playing. I mean, we've seen more odd man rushes than I've seen in this series than any other playoff series so far, guys. There's been a lot of 2-on-1s. That's how, honestly, Nashville has scored most of their goals. They haven't really scored a lot of 5-on-5. Just an offensive zone cycling around kind of goal. It's been a lot of just outworking the Colorado Avalanche. And like you mentioned, in elimination games, and you and I talked about this last year during the playoffs, these days in this new era of the NHL, over trends a lot more in elimination games. It used to be an under, used to be goaltender battles, used to be defensive battles, but now it's almost just, who can reach 4 goals first wins the game. And that's what I think this one's going to be like as well. So I agree with both of you guys on that one. And I think collectively together, us three are all on the first period over in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. First period overs have been, for the most part, pretty good in these playoffs. Full game overs have been a lot more dicey, especially lately. But yeah, because I think we're getting the situation here. Nashville gets ahead. Yeah, that's a good point. Nashville will want to tighten up, no question, and play a little bit more conservative with the lead. But that's not going to be Colorado. Colorado's going to be coming in waves. And if they come in waves and turn the puck over and get stymied, Nashville can counterattack. And then you're going to see odd man rushes. You're going to see chances being taken. And this is a depth-shy, inexperienced blue line. And Nashville can take advantage of those grade A chances that might open up to them if Colorado's got to force the issue and maybe turn the puck over in a bad spot, much like we saw with Toronto last night, where they turned the puck over in bad spots and Boston went on the counterattack against them. So that's another little element to this game here tonight that I think could be beneficial to expect goals. We got Minnesota, Winnipeg next up. Third game on this Friday slate, 11-12 on the rotation. Winnipeg minus 215 to minus 220. Again, another big home favorite here. Total 5.5, shaded to the under at about minus 130. And other than game 3, this has been an under series. You've had 3 unders, 1 over so far. That's about it. And I don't trust this Minnesota offense without Parise right now. I just don't. I mean, you saw it the other night, a game they had to have to avoid going down 3-1 in the series. And where was the thrust of consistent pressure and A-quality chances from Minnesota? You just did not see many of them in that game against Winnipeg. Hellebuck was great. Hellebuck now, much like Rinne on the Nashville team, these goalies, when they get pulled and in bounce back mode, they've been phenomenal. Hellebuck's been phenomenal in that role. Rinne's been phenomenal in that role. So if you see either of these goalies, if they meet up in the second round, get pulled one game, don't rush to bet against them the next game. They've been great bounce back goalies, both of them, Rinne and Hellebuck. So we could be seeing that matchup coming up in the second round, which is a complete disgrace. And you know how I feel about that. There's no way Winnipeg and Nashville should play in a second round. They should be in the conference finals, but we've screamed about that already. You know how I feel about that already. But anyway, I think Winnipeg looking to end this series here tonight. This is at least a little bit more manageable if you like Winnipeg here in the regulation line, which I kind of do. You're getting a better price here than you are in some of the other games here in this Game 5 situations tonight. Really, the key for Minnesota is they're going to need a steal the game type of night from Devin Dubnyk. They're going to need that from him in between the pipes in this game. If they're going to prolong this series, that might not be an easy thing to do here against this Winnipeg team at home. The crowd's going to be revved up. Do you think the Jets for 1 second are going to want to go back to Minnesota for Game 6? No, not with that crowd in a frenzy tonight at Bell MTS Place there in Winnipeg. It's a situation where I think you're going to get the Jets with full focus trying to put an end to this game and this series tonight. And if they bring that, I think they should be able to get the job done. So for me, the bet I'd be looking to make here is the Winnipeg Jets in regulation time. Again, it's a little bit more of a manageable price. And if the window comes up here for a second that I'm trying to open to give me that regulation price, I would relay that information to you. And it's not right now. So we'll get that to you in a second with that. But yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking at here. Jets in regulation time for me. Alex B. Smith, Winnipeg, Minnesota. I know that's where you're living now, Minnesota. It's a glum group of Wild fans. I'm sure they're not very optimistic right now. Is this the end of the road for your boys in Minnie?
Yeah, it's all over tonight. I mean, it's the same old story. This team, they do well in the regular season, get into the playoffs, and for one reason or another, be it injuries or just they run into a hot team, they just completely fade into oblivion. Whatever the case may be, the Wild more than likely going to be eliminated for another year in the first or second round. The regulation line, I've seen a 140 for the Jets at one spot. That's the only thing I would look at betting here. I'm not going to be betting this game, honestly. But though, like I said, maybe looking at it from a live point of view, if the Wild score first, I might look at jumping on Winnipeg. I do think Winnipeg's going to, because the crowd's going to be in a frenzy. This will be the first playoff series. You look at the old Jets team. I can't remember did they ever win a playoff series? As far as I know, that old Jets team, I know that the last time they made the playoffs, they were few and far between. So this is a huge moment for this franchise to wrap up a series. Now, like I said, they're going to be playing Nashville, which I've said all along that these two teams, yeah, like you said, it should be a conference final matchup. And I think the winner here, as good as Vegas has played, as good as San Jose plays, I think the Nashville Winnipeg winner in the semifinal will be representing the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final.
All right, there we go. So a lot of us like Winnipeg to end it. Now, we know Minnesota's a capable hockey team. They certainly are capable of maybe springing a massive upset here, but I just haven't seen enough cohesion, chemistry, whatever you want to call it, with this group, without Zach Parise that last game. That's a home game. You needed to win it as much as you needed to win game 3, and you just didn't generate much at all in terms of quality, offense, and chances against this Winnipeg Jets defense. Winnipeg Jets defense, by the way, that will have Tyler Myers back tonight from injury, which is going to help them and their cause even more on the back end. So, I got to see Minnesota put something in the net on the road in a big spot before I can back them. So I don't believe they truly can do that. So I'm going to be looking at that Winnipeg reg line price in that -140 to -150 range. It's not a cheap price for a regulation bet. I understand that, but it's the best bet that I personally think there is out there to be made on this game 5 between the Wild and Jets tonight. Let's go to Andrew as well. Minnesota, Winnipeg. Andrew, what do you see happening here?
Well, guys, prior to this NHL playoffs starting, I got the Jets to win versus the Wild in this series 4-1 as a result at +389. I thought that was an excellent price. I thought this series is one of the best reads I had. And I thought that exactly when the Minnesota Wild were going to win was going to be their first game at home right back in St. Paul. Obviously, everyone was kind of concerned about the weather, what kind of game that would be for them. But, that was the game for them. And, that was the team that we're used to seeing during the season. I mean, not used to seeing them score that many goals every game, but everyone kind of showed up all in one game. And to me, guys, sometimes I almost think that's a bad thing when you have every player kind of showing up because, to use a phrase that Ian always uses, the next game we couldn't find any of those guys with the telescope. I mean, we couldn't find any of those guys that we need to see. And we saw what they could do in game 3, and then game 4, they just go MIA. And, sometimes right now you got to wonder, are they really making Hellebuck look that good, or is Minnesota just looking bad? And that's kind of what I was wondering. It's the same thing about the Pittsburgh and Philadelphia series. Is Pittsburgh that good, or is Philadelphia just that shitty? And I think in this series, just as I thought, and hopefully cashing my bet tonight, I think the regulation bet, if you're going to bet this game, I wouldn't go with the puck line, wouldn't go with the full game. Regulation is the way to go. I also, again, I'm going to keep going with the trend. I think, although I was saying, I think in elimination games, people could look to the over. I think in this one, Dubnyk's going to have to give everything he's got. This is going to be his last game of the season. He's going to have to go all out, and they're going to have to give him some space. They're going to have to, let him see the pucks, not try and get that traffic away from him, and try and keep Winnipeg out of their zone as much as they can. I mean, let's face it, they've got some big guys. I mean, I know Dana's always talking about it as well, how it's hard to knock those guys off the puck. I think it'll be hard for them to do that tonight. So they're going to clog that neutral zone up, guys, and I think under the 5.5 might be a good number. Even though we might see some empty netters, I think it'll be a good shot here on the under in that one as well. But Jets in regulation to close up the series is my official play.
Yeah, I know it's 5.5 and it's shaded to the under, but I can't go on an over when I saw Minnesota struggle to muster just 20 shots in the first 2 games of this series against Winnipeg. And if you're going to be banking on an over when a team is mustering just 20 shots on goal in a situation, that's tough. That's tough sledding if you're trying to make a case for an over. Let's go to Saturday.
Maybe even Jets first period, honestly. I think they'll come out to a good start. They need to have that good start because, as much as everyone's saying this is an important game for Minnesota, and I know it's an elimination game, Ian, I think as far as when you're a team that's up 3-1, you need to have that extra jump as well. You need to show that you're not ready to go back to St. Paul. And I think that it might be a big period for the first period, maybe even first period under 1.5. I don't usually do that too often, guys, but maybe the first period will be a kind of a slower paced, relaxed kind of style. Both goaltenders really solid. Keep that under 1.5.
Yeah, it's. I think it's over tonight for the Minnesota Wild. They're going to be in a tough. Winnipeg looking to finish this off tonight and take care of business here at home. And again, we got Minnesota struggling to put up 20 shots the 2 games in Winnipeg, and that's not going to get the job done if they have a similar lack of offensive output and offensive thrust in this game tonight. Moving on now to Saturday, where we've got 3 games as well. New Jersey, Tampa Bay, one of the early afternoon 3 p.m. games, Eastern time. Tampa minus 245, total 6 across the board. 3 straight overs, and finally an under. The last game, even though there were tons of chances, tons of power plays, ends up a 3-1 win for the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 4 to take a 3-1 commanding lead in this series, and they could get Ryan Callahan back. Obviously a key 2-way forward. He's been out the last couple games. He might be ready to return in this one. Tampa Bay, is this another situation where this is a team eager to close things out? They did win the 2 home games in Tampa earlier on. New Jersey fighting the good fight, but Corey Schneider, a pretty good game again from him, but no offense. Vasilevsky, I think, got a little bit of a boost from getting that Vezina Trophy nomination, because let's be honest, this has not been vintage Vasilevsky for the last month and a half. He was as good as I've seen in a long time in that game, in Game 4 the other night in Jersey. Great performance from him. If that's the Vasilevsky that brings that kind of game and performance to the ice here, it could be tough for New Jersey. As of right now, it's a pass for me on this game. Although it has been an interesting trend here that Tampa Bay day games this season have been higher scoring in nature more often than not. So for that reason, I'll lean over. I want to do a little bit more looking into it, but it's 6 again. You're not getting the 5.5, but I know Tampa Bay regular season, and of course last week, Saturday afternoon game, which was Game 2 of this series, very high-scoring hockey game that was. So speaks to that Tampa Bay daytime game over trend that has taken place this season. So maybe a lean to the over as a result there going into this Tampa Jersey game taking place on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's go on now to Toronto-Boston, 67-68. Do or die here for the Leafs in this one. We've got Boston minus 185, total 5.5 across the board, about minus 110. I've been trying to make a case at times for the Leafs in this series, but it's tough. They're now in a very, very difficult spot, and you hear every analyst last night saying opportunity wasted, opportunity missed for the Leafs at home, trying to even the series. A late scratch to Patrice Bergeron due to injury, but boy, Boston Bruins showed you why they're 9-2-2 this season without Patrice Bergeron in the lineup. They found a way to get it done. Let's be honest, Toronto was outplayed Boston for extended stretches of that game, especially in the second period. They had to rely on Tuukka Rask. They had to rely on a couple of gaffes that the Toronto Maple Leafs made defensively that resulted in 2-on-1 rushes that resulted in the 2 Boston goals to make it 3-1. Just poor job, Jake Gardiner, bad decision maybe to pinch at that time of the game. Even worse was the job of Nikita Zaitsev playing the guy making the pass instead of taking the shot away. I mean, you're supposed to just sprawl there. You got to take the pass across the ice away. You just have to do that if you're Nikita Zaitsev. He did not. He stepped up to where the passer was, left the shooter all alone. You got to take that pass across and let the goalie have the shot. Zaitsev didn't do that. A bad misplay, bad blunder for a guy that got a big contract last season too for Toronto. Big blunder at a big spot and a bad time. And it ended up being a big one for the Leafs, and they couldn't overcome it. Now they got to go on the road where Boston's had their way. They've had the last line changed. They've gotten the Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron / Riley Nash line. Because remember, it was Riley Nash that took Bergeron's spot last night on that top line as the center. They've had the right matchup. They've gotten them away from the Toronto elite checkers. And in Boston, they've been able to really do damage against this Toronto team. Now, that's not all bad news for the Leafs. They will have Nazem Kadri back for Game 5. His 3-game suspension's over. He'll be back in the lineup, back on the ice, and they need all the defensive presence they can get trying to slow down Boston right now. It'll help, no question. Face-off, penalty killing, defensive awareness. He can chip in offense too. Kadri, he's been a much improved offensive player the last couple of years. But that may not be enough here in this case. As much as I've been trying to make a case for Toronto, it's a great price. I think you're going to see Mike Babcock and this team try to throw everything at the Boston Bruins. It's hell or high water. Austin Matthews has been, other than Game 3 where he scored the goal, he's been neutralized in this series. That Nylander Matthews line has been neutralized. Marner's line played very good last night, but that's the only line that really played well last night for Toronto, shut down by this Boston team. So, it's tough for me to trust Toronto to extend this series one more game right now. They had their great shot to tie this series, dominated Boston. Let's be honest, territorially they did for a long part of that game, and they still didn't win. That's a real big concern for me going into Boston here. The over does make some sense to me here, 5.5. It's a very cheap number, cheap price. Toronto's got to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Tuukka Rask and the Bruins. Boston has scored, 5+ goals in the 2 games at home in this series against the Leafs. So an over could be in the cards here for sure in this Game 5 matchup. Let's go to Andrew. His thoughts. Toronto-Boston, Game 5, Saturday night, NBC. It's the primetime game. The Leafs need a primetime performance to match that. Are they capable of it?
Yeah, they might be capable of it in about 3 or 4 years, guys. I think that what we're seeing right now is just a team that's just not ready. They're just not there. And a lot of people are going to probably hate the fact that I'm saying that, but from what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot more of an advanced team. We're seeing men playing against boys right now. And the fact that we're going to get Nazem Kadri back, does that really tell me, that's going to really change things? The fact that he's going to be back from his 3-game suspension, I think he's going to be too fired up, too wound up, too excited, I think. And Ian, you mentioned his defensive presence, but I think, to be honest with you, he's going to try and play that chippy style the Bruins play. And that's been the biggest problem. I personally really think that if the Leafs played the Lightning in the first round, they would have been a lot better off than playing this team. I mean, the Bruins have a lot more depth, but more specifically, their defense is a lot better than this Leafs defense. And everyone thinks, well, there's a lot of offensive presence on the Leafs blue line. I mean, they can move the puck very well. The fact is, this Bruins team has 3 lines that can score, 3 lines that can forecheck the hell out of you, 3 lines that can piss you off until you just can't even focus anymore. You're not even concentrated on the game. But when you've got guys like, McAvoy, Chara, Krug, Miller, those guys are just solid defenders. They're not going to score too much. You don't really see their names on the score sheet too often. But like you said, the Leafs are going to be throwing everything that they can at the net. I'll almost guarantee tomorrow we're going to see a 6. We're seeing these odds very, very early right now. We're going to see a 6. Get that 5.5. Get on it early. And it's probably one of my strongest plays over the next 2 days.
All right, the over 5.5. Andrew likes that one quite a bit. It's hard to argue because Toronto's defensive game is it's been problematic to say the least in this series. I mean, even though Boston only scores 3 last night, it's not like they needed a ton of chances to get those 3 goals. Boston didn't have a ton of shots, ton of quality chances. What if they come back home and they get a bunch of quality shots and quality chances? You have to expect they will. They'll get more shots and chances and opportunity than they did last night. They got a good chance to get more than 3 goals, you would think, because they did at home in the first 2 games of this series, and you can't bank on Boston being held to the number of shots and chances they had last night in the game against the Leafs. So it should be
It's one of those things where you kind of almost hope that the game yesterday went low scoring just so we can hop on the over one more time again. I mean, Let's face it, if yesterday would have been a 5-3 game for the Bruins, would we really be seeing that 5.5 for tomorrow? 100% not. But the fact that we saw a 3-1 game just falls right into our cards. Now they see a 5.5. They all of a sudden the odds makers. Let's face it. I swear to you guys, the odds makers right now still don't even care about hockey. They're focused on MLB and all basketball playoffs, everything else. They're just going based all off trends. I mean, they see that game yesterday, 3-1. All of a sudden they post a 5.5 total. It's ridiculous. I guarantee that'll be up to 6 by late tomorrow.
That's true. I mean, it's the zigzag theory. I mean, and that's sometimes something you take advantage of in NBA and NHL playoffs. You get a total of, let's say it's 210 in an NBA playoff game. It goes well under. It's like 198 final score, total points. Then the next game, you'll see the total maybe instead of 210, 204, 205. They'll lower it a few points. That's when you want to go the other way and go over. Get that value. And that value as the pendulum swings a little bit. That's exactly what Andrew's thinking is here. Get that pendulum swinging to the other direction now after a 3-1 game with a total of 6. Let's maybe go in the other direction and use that zigzag from a total standpoint and go over the better number of 5.5 when we should maybe have more chances and more opportunities on net in this game, Leafs and Bruins. So that's the kind of buy low, sell high thinking that you sometimes want to have when you're betting on sports on a daily basis. Next up, we've got Washington, Columbus. Last game, Washington. Boy, if they turn this series around, minus 165 home favorites here in Game 5. Total 5.5 shaded to the under. In the way the series has gone so far, Columbus was better than Washington in Game 1. They were. Washington was probably better than Columbus in Game 2, even though Columbus won that game. The shots dictated that. Game 3 was close. I actually thought Columbus was better than Washington in Game 3, but Capitals get the break in overtime, and they end up winning that game 3-2 to get it back in the series. Last night was the first game in this entire series where one team was vastly better than the other, and Washington was much better than Columbus last night. Territorially dominated them. Their power play worked. Their penalty kill shut down Columbus power play. Their goalie Holtby was better than Bobrovsky. Defensively they were better. They capitalized more on their chances, and they just took the play more to Columbus, and resulting in another famous John Tortorella post-game press conference where he says, "We laid an egg. I can't talk about it. There's nothing to say." He says, "We laid an egg. We stunk. We sucked." That's all he said, and they try to poke at him for elements. Well, what part of the game did you think you struck? No, it's just I got nothing more to say. We sucked. We laid an egg. We stunk. He just repeated that over and over again. Took a couple more questions, said it, and then he sent it out. That's it. I don't know what more I can say to you guys. We sucked. We laid an egg. We stunk. That's it. We'll look into being better. We got to be better. That's it. And so he just walked off after that. It's a classic Torts moment, nevertheless. But he kept it calm. He didn't yell at anybody. He kept it calm. He was just frustrated. So that's Tortorella now. He has these press conferences where he voices frustration, but he doesn't lose it with boiling rage and anger like our man Morency does in the late night hours here on this channel. He keeps it calm, and one of those situations where, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, but I'm not going to just go overboard. And that's Tortorella trying to be a nice, kinder, gentler Tortorella. We'll see if that mindset helps his team, because they've lost momentum in this series. They had 2-0 going back home. Now it's 2-2. And now I'm mildly concerned about my Columbus series position now a little bit. However, I'm not ready to, I'm not abandoning my ship here right now. Even though this series is 2-2. I said Columbus is going to win this series. Am I a little bit more concerned now? Yeah. But, it's been a road ice advantage type of series right now. Road teams won every game. I'm not going to put it past Columbus to maybe get the momentum back with a better performance, especially hearing their coach saying we laid an egg. I think the players on this team are good enough to have a bounce back in them. Bobrovsky's a good enough goalie to have a bounce back in him. They've shown they can win in Washington. So if I'm betting this game, I'm telling you right now, I'm taking the plus with Columbus here at the plus 145. You can get an even better price than you could when they played in Washington in games 1 and 2. They were only getting plus 125 or so in those two games. Plus 145 is, I think, you get Columbus's best effort. Whether that's good enough to win or lose, I'm convinced we get Columbus's best effort in this game tomorrow. That's enough to get me on the plus 145 price. Totals wise, well, you had 2 overs in Washington, 2 unders in Columbus. Lean to the over, but I like the side more. I'm going to take my shot here with Columbus. More keen with taking Columbus at these plus prices than I am laying a price with them. And now that we're getting the value swinging toward the Columbus side of this equation, that's the way I'm going to go in this game. Let's go to Alex B. Smith, Washington, Columbus, Game 5, big one, 2-2 series. It's a big momentum swing either way. The winner toward the winner of this game. Alex, what do you like here?
Yeah, it's interesting. When we were breaking down this series, and I mentioned about, the negative playoff experience of Washington, coming up short in the first and second round after having great regular seasons, and also really the negative playoff history of Columbus. They, had 3 playoff series and they hadn't really done much of anything. And now it's kind of showing more of the negative side of Columbus than it is Washington, because Columbus's issue now is, can they close out a series? They had, full control of this, and now they've given all the momentum right back to Washington, where at least we've seen Washington win a series. They've gone to the second round in 3 straight years. So he said all the momentum right now is on Washington's side. But the way I would be looking at this, I'm not going to bet it, but he said you got 4 straight road teams winning here, and the road teams catching a significant plus price. He said we're going to get a good effort from Columbus. That's the side I'd be leaning with.
Yeah, I mean, I think win or lose, and hey, maybe Washington now has got their confidence back. They are heeding the quotes of Ovechkin saying we're taking this series back to Washington and we can still win this thing. And clearly they've responded positively to that, the Capitals. Maybe they have wrestled momentum away from this series and they've got their confidence and their swagger back a little bit. But I've still got to see Washington close this thing out too. And the way I see this, I think I'm going to get a great effort and performance from Columbus, win or lose. Win or lose, and because they could lose. This is the Stanley Cup playoffs, folks, where bad bounces happen, a weird penalty call, questionable, controversial happens, can swing a game against you at any moment. You know, you play a great hockey game in the playoffs, it doesn't automatically mean you win the game. We've seen it time and time again. Goalie can stand on his head, bad penalty call, someone falls down, blows a tire on the ice, gives up a 2-on-1, and you're done. I mean, you could have any kind of thing like that happen. But the effort to win and the effort to play your best game, maybe of this series, I think is going to be there for Columbus. I think we're going to see it. And for that reason alone, win or lose, it's enough for me to get on there with plus 145 in my back pocket on the Columbus Blue Jackets here in Game 5 in a series where the road team has won every single game. All right, it's best bets time to wrap up our Friday show. The Friday, Saturday games, we've talked about them all. Unfortunately, Dana unable to join us today, but we'll see if he can join us for our next show. Our next show, by the way, is up in the air. Normally, throughout the playoffs, we're going to have a Sunday show, a brief one, 30 minutes, 1:30 p.m. Eastern to talk the Sunday games. We may not have any Sunday games, though, to talk about. So we're going to have to play it by ear. We'll have an announcement, I think, tomorrow after these games take place tonight, what the status of the Sunday show will be, whether we'll have one or not. If not, you'll see us again on Monday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time with our next show. If there is one or two Sunday games, preferably two. I don't know if we'd come on just to do one game. If there's two games or more on Sunday, we'll definitely do a Sunday show because it's just 30 minutes anyway. So play it by ear. Keep tabs on the NHL Ice Guys Twitter at the Ice Guys _SBR. We'll post that info there. I'll post that info on my own Twitter. I'm sure Alex and Andrew will do the same as well. We'll update you on the status of the Sunday show tomorrow. Early tomorrow, we'll have that confirmed whether we'll be on the air on Sunday or not. And if we're not, we'll be back on Monday for sure on Monday with another edition at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So just wanted to throw out that little programming alert for all of our great viewers, all of our great viewers tuning in on a daily basis here, on a regular basis with the NHL Ice Guys. So let's get to best bets. Let's get to Andrew McGinnis first. What do you got for us? Best bet. I know it's a tricky card here. You got a lot of big favorites, a lot of big underdogs. You know, you're picking at breadcrumbs really here, but got to pick something. What do you like?
Well, I've yet to really go for a game that's on the second day of one of our shows so far. And, I'm not really the biggest fan of this card, really. So I'm just going to go for the 5.5 with the Bruins Leafs. It's ridiculous. It's just like you mentioned, the kind of the stock market mentality, buy low, sell high. The Bruins went 3-1 yesterday, and all of a sudden we're seeing a 5.5 at minus 110. If you told me that in the first game of the series that we get that at an elimination or a big game like that for the Leafs, it's absolutely bullshit to me. I think it's a huge play, and 5.5 is way too low of a number. This game's going to skyrocket over that. Definitely one of my favorite plays of the playoffs, really.
All right, there you have it from Andrew McGinnis. He is going with Boston, Toronto over 5.5. Great price too, minus 110. His best bet that takes place Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Game 5, Leafs Bruins. All right, Alex, best bet. What you like here?
Going with the first period over in the Keystone State, which looks like it'll be the final game of the Keystone State showdown between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Like I said, I expect a high-scoring effort. Now, whether it's going to be 2 goals from one team or 1 each way, not quite sure. But I do think we're going to see at least 2, maybe 3 goals in the first 20 minutes of play here. And like I said, I think Pittsburgh will wrap this one up. But I like the first period over as my best bet tonight.
All right, Philly Pitt, first period over, 1.5 for Alex B. Smith with his best bet, and mine is the game we just finished talking about prior to best bets. I'm gonna stick to my guns here with this. Fire the cannon with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm firing that cannon Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern with the Columbus Blue Jackets, plus 145. I love the price. I mean, I didn't think we'd see this kind of a jump just because Washington took 2 in Columbus, forgetting the fact that Columbus took 2 in Washington. And here we are. We can get plus 145. Sign me up. I don't think the Jackets are dead just yet. They've lost a little momentum. But like I said, I think we get their A game, whether it's enough to win or lose. It's certainly good enough for me to take Columbus plus 145 in Game 5 as my best bet for this edition of the NHL Ice Guys. That's going to wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Again, check us out on Twitter tomorrow. We'll have a confirmation of yay or nay for a Sunday show. And if we don't have one on Sunday, we'll be back Monday 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Time, with our next playoff edition of the NHL Ice Guys. For Andrew McGinnis and Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the playoff action these next 2 days. We'll see you again on either Sunday or Monday. Again, keep an eye on Twitter with what day we'll be on next with the NHL Ice Guys. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the games, and good luck.